stashed away for dirty little secret. President Trump has been clashing with both Democrats and Republicans in his pursuit to repeal and replace Obamacare, but it seems that he's found other ways to achieve his goal. After slashing expenditures to the bloated healthcare bill, however, it was discovered that a whopping $90 billion was being quietly funneled elsewhere. Trump has faced ample resistance from both the left and the right in his quest to repeal and replace Obamacare. Even members of the GOP such as John McCain and Rand Paul have voted against the bill, each having their own separate reasons. McCain claimed that a bipartisan healthcare bill was the problem in the first place, and that simply passing one that only Republicans liked wouldn't solve anything. Rand Paul, being a libertarian, stated that we shouldn't replace Obamacare at all. In fact, he believes we should let the private sector handle healthcare. President Trump eventually grew tired of Congress and their inability to pass any meaningful legislation, so he began signing executive orders to defund critical components of Obamacare. In the process, however, it's been discovered that a $90 billion discrepancy has likely been stolen from taxpayers and funneled into Obamacare. According to Daily Caller, President Trump has rolled back funding for a key program intended to help people navigate Obamacare. He signed an executive order to increase competition for insurance companies across state lines, and he's even stopped federal funding for Obamacare subsidies. Over the course of his first 9 months in office, he rolled back funding for a program intended to help individuals navigate the insurance marketplace, signed an executive order to allow for groups to purchase insurance across state lines, and stopped federal funding for Obamacare subsidies. Taken in tandem, it appears the administration is working to overhaul the American healthcare system without the help of Congress, a body that has failed a handful of times to repeal and replace Obamacare during the first months of Trump's presidency. Each of these actions has a significant impact on the viability of the current healthcare system. However, there's still a massive source that's been funding Obamacare, and it's been largely hidden from the American public. Alan B. West, former U.S. Representative, author, Army Lieutenant Colonel, and political commentator, reports that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been quietly funding the Treasury at the expense of the U.S. citizens. If Trump truly wants to deal the coup de grace to Obamacare, there's still a massive source of funding for the law that Barack Obama deceptively implemented, and it relates to the one last piece of unfinished business from the past financial crisis, the status of mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Having required massive bailouts in 2008, the two corporations were placed under control of the U.S. Treasury. Initially, the two organizations agreed to pay the Treasury a dividend each year equivalent to 10% of the bailout funds they took, and the Treasury was also issued warrants granting them the equivalent of a 79.9% equity stake in the two companies. Since the two giants recovered faster than expected and became profitable, the Obama administration saw better returns in seizing the profits of Fannie and Freddie instead. Since 2012, every quarter, the two giants have been sending 100% of their profits to the Treasury, rewarding the Treasury handsomely. Despite the fact that taxpayers bailed out Fannie and Freddie to the tune of $187.5 billion, the federal government has been paid back $275.8 billion thus far, or nearly $90 billion in excess of that figure. And what have the funds been used for? Our current Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has already admitted what many had speculated, that the funds were being used to fund Obamacare. What's worse, however, is that this could end up severely harming U.S. taxpayers the time we need our cash the most. Due to Freddie and Fannie having their profits confiscated by the leftover Obama administration, they can never retain any cash reserves of their own. Therefore, once we hit an economic recession and the banks become unprofitable, the American taxpayer will have to foot the bill. While some have argued that Obama did what was necessary in order to revive our struggling economy, others have argued that the free market is far more efficient at regulating economies than any government. Many conservatives have urged President Trump to eliminate this risk to taxpayers by issuing an executive order to the Treasury, telling them to sell their $100 billion stake in Freddie and Fannie. That same $100 billion that's been funding fat cats could be used to rebuild infrastructure, empower our military, or even fund the wall. After the economic collapse of 2008, millions of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, grew furious with the banksters. They'd largely caused the recession by lending out substandard mortgages, and then they were bailed out by the very own taxpayers who they hurt the most. Whether you're for Trump or against Trump, you can't deny that our government would be better off cutting all ties with Freddie and Fannie. Thank you for watching this video. What do you think about this? Share this on Facebook and Twitter along with your comments.